numbers, you need to be firing up the players. You need to be getting in those DB7 air raids. You need to be getting everyone together. Because I know back, last year, you'd be having bomb raids. You get everyone together. You say, "Oh, we're gonna go smash Leuven," for example. You get the ground. They're all flying throughs in. You got everyone working together as a team, and I feel like allies are just sort of missing that now. If you know.
Right, and I see. And you know what? This has been a discussion that we've had within the high command, within the various command structure, probably over the last 2.5 weeks since we've lost a lot of the ground, and we're moving back west. And we've been trying to come up with like, what has happened here? How have we lost the player base? And guys, we are the first ones to step forward and say, look, we've lost the player base, and we've got to find a way to get them back. And we've discussed it with Ohm and Zoom, and we're not sure what's happened, guys. I think we've got a fine line that we have to work within the high command. We've got to juggle around as far as trying to make the right decisions. We got to look at the player population.
Okay, Lexfire, I've got my hand up again.
Yes, sir. Here, just one sec, Wayne.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've got to look at we look at the player base, the support we're getting from the player base at that time on what's going on in the game, and some of the feedback that we're getting, and that helps us on the decisions we make in respects to just basically trying to OA just a morale count, just to hopefully make it an easy capture to try to help build some momentum to get moving along. The RDP raids, which I am a huge supporter of. I think they're great, especially for showing the teamwork. And I've noticed the last couple of days, the guys in the air have really been picking the ball up on that and running with it, which has been, I mean, it's a plus. There's no downside to that at all. But it's really hard for the HC to get a handle on how the players are feeling about things when we try to make the right choice on the AOs. And we do sometimes stay too defensive-minded. I'm a firm believer in once we get the momentum, to keep going with it. Just keep going. And we'll end up doing harassment attacks as a P2 or something to try to draw Axis away so that we can get a better advantage on the P1 attack. But for some reason, the last couple of weeks, and yes, some fingers can be pointed at the HC, but we have lost the player base, and this is why we're having this. We want to pull you guys in and get us all back working.
I need to jump in now because I need to jump out very quickly. I'm sorry to jump in like this, but okay. The Allied High Command and the Axis High Command, I perceive them as both the same. Very interested people, very motivated people who want to do well for the side that they're working for. What is the average age of the Allied High Command and the Axis High Command? If it's very young, remember guys, a lot of the people on this game are ancient. Well, I won't see fucking 60 again, put it that way. And I want to know, we got these young guys. Now, in the British Army, we put a young lieutenant out with 30 men with a very grisly sergeant. Now, I think the failure with Allied High Command, probably Axis is the same, I don't know. There is no one stood over their shoulder saying, if you do that again, I'm going to slap you fucking daft. So that's what it needs. There are a lot of young people in the High Command who are young, and they need a senior to look after them. I have to log off now, guys, but I'm going down, and while you lot are talking, I'm going to bomb your factories.
Roger that. We've got it recorded, so if you miss anything, we'll be able to get it out there.
Oh, you tossers. Go on, go away.
This is Ballroom Massey.
Yes, sir.
As your role, though, one thing that I find frustrating is, the other night when we have, we stacked up 2 divisions on P-ville. They had 2 brigades in P-ville. Me and Kildar and a couple of others, Coyote I think was in it, and we had this planned out. Okay, so we moved all the stuff down there. There's no communication between time zones because I go to sleep for 5 hours, come back, and all the brigades are moved back. We had an opportunity, but the HC isn't willing to commit to anything. They're not communicating, and that's driving a lot of the player base away. Instead, we're willing to just defend Antwerp, defend Brussels, defend whatever they attack, and you're losing players like that because there's no communication between time zones. We do RDP, and trust me, I have my say on RDP and how effective it is, but the HC isn't willing to, they don't work with the player base, the people who are doing RDP, to take advantage of it, and that is one reason why I left AHC, and that is one reason why I probably won't rejoin, is because of the fact that I get something rolling, if somebody else gets something rolling, but they just go to sleep without saying anything.
Right, and that's been a point that has been brought up. And as a matter of fact, we got a within the high command forum. There's a post that's going on that was actually put out there a couple of days ago, and where it's the communication between the time zones, and it's very noticeable by RAM. And if it's noticeable by just the player base, then there's definitely a problem within the AC. Now, and that's something we're having to work on. And the problem we have in that, is where we don't have enough players within, say, well, I'm just going to use an example, time zone 3, and when the officers within time zone 2 are having to log out, there's nobody within time zone 3 that's on, and there might be a dead space, so the information is not getting passed along. Now, we do have a tool within the high command where we can place the MOIC message, and basically it transfers along what's been attempting at this time, whether we're shuffling a brigade or making some adjustments along the front line. And sometimes that gets outdated, and the information is not either being updated or it's not being posted. And our sync, SPART, as well as various officers, this has been noticed, and it has been put out there that we have got to do better on getting the information passed along from time zone to time zone. And this has been an ongoing issue that we've had probably since the high command first really got established. And I can say that because I was along when we first brought the HC in. And now, granted, things are a little easier. We've got tools in game, but they're not being used as effectively as what they should be.
Well, let me put it this way. And I know why these brigades were pulled back. It's because they started mulling Antwerp. And yet the HC is also so restricted in their things they can do. When I'm saying to hell with Antwerp, we have a hole right here we can break through and take. You know, the Axis might get Antwerp, but it's become such an icon for no apparent reason. We could capture 15 to 20 cities and let the Axis have Antwerp. I mean, but oh no, we're losing Antwerp. We got to move all these brigades back to defend it.
Yeah, and a problem we have with that is essentially, and guys, I'm going to give you my gut feeling, and this is about Antwerp. I despise Antwerp when it's a frontline town, and I despise it even more once our air brigades get popped out of there, because Axis will do the same thing that we do on the Allied side. When we get an airfield that's a front line, the first thing we want to do is we want to go and kick those air brigades out of there, because if you don't own the air, you're going to have issues on the ground.
Can I cut in there?
Right.
Well,
and
in Reims and Berry over the last few days, when they've moved up against them, we've actually pulled the air out without them actually bouncing the airfields. We've moved the air out ourselves. Honestly, all up and down the line. We did it in Brussels, we did it in Antwerp, we moved it out. It wasn't bounced out.
No,
it was all moved out.
At the same time, there's been issues with fallbacks.
Yeah, because
the server being reset.
Yeah, so the server gets reset. We can't, for some reason, we won't leave the planes there. So we pull them out, and then rather leave the brigade in there and get it bounced than move it 70k away, because who's going to fly that far? I mean, if that's a server problem, then the server.
If there's no fallback and it gets bounced, we lose the brigade.
Yeah, but so what? Yeah, but you're missing the point. What's the point in moving the brigade 70k away? Because no one's going to fly them then. You might as well leave it in the frontline town and use the planes up, because no one's going to fly them from there anyway. You know?
No one's going to be able to fly it if it's in training either.
Yeah, but
okay, so if you leave it in the front line, you're going to get a bunch of airfield campers, and that's where, and then everybody else complains about it because everyone's going to go there and camp that thing.
Yeah, but if you pull them out,
You piss off more players pulling them out than you do leaving them in.
Yeah, if you pull them out, then you've done their job for them. You're doing the hard work for them. Their objective is to bounce your air brigades. You've moved them out. Their objectives, you've done it for them before you've even started.
How do we raise our hand?
Crazy.
Well, if you want to talk, you really should be private messaging Lexfire, since he's the host, or putting something in the main lobby as opposed to interrupting him verbally.
Okay, sorry.
So, that's all right.
User left your channel.
All right, guys, and I mean, it's very obvious. Everybody's got their own opinions about the airfields and things like that, and that's just one of those things that we've got to juggle around in respects to, especially within the HC, on getting the priorities straight. The player base, they have their own feelings, as far as in respects to, say, the larger cities, Antwerp. Antwerp is always a big morale town. Within the HC, we've got to look at the strategic side or the tactical side of these towns. And sometimes some decisions are made that looks badly on the map, but on a strategic side, there's a reason why we have to make a certain decision, whether it's pulling back out of a town or whatever. And sometimes it goes over well, sometimes it doesn't. But as long as we try to get the information out across to the player base on reasons why that we have to make certain moves, I think that goes over a little bit better.
Joined your channel.
But guys, I know that's a hot topic about the airfields, and Hammer, I know I think me and you was going over a few things on messages within the game yesterday. But airfields are key. We all know that. You want to work a specific sector, you got to have that air, and those are actually the goals that we do within the HC. Is when we try to set a certain phase or a certain sector of the map. One of the things we look at is airfields. We've got to maintain airfields or to capture the airfields. But, like I said, it's all duly noted and highly respected on how players feel about those larger towns and those airfields. But, Svart, you want to have anything to say on that?
Well, the front line, the airfields and all this it's quite simple. The reason why we pull it out is because if they don't have any fallbacks or they're depleted, they get pulled out. And then to the, we pulled it too far away. Well, we always try to have air brigades as close to the front line as possible, and we have multiple air flags. So just because one flag get moved far away doesn't mean that there's no air support available anywhere. The only issue we have is that we don't want our flags to get bounced to training, no matter what.
Now, one of the things that, and I'm just going to point this out before we move on here, but one of the things that Hammer had pointed out to me yesterday was when we have a frontline airfield, we still got, or an airfield that's close to the front line, the Axis use the tactic in the same as we do, of either what we call vulturing the airfield or even camping the airfield, is ensuring that we have a fighter squadron or something on the next airfield behind the front that can assist that airfield when the Axis start using that tactic. And essentially what would have to happen there is we'd have to get the communications out across that such and such airfield is being camped or it's getting vultured, utilize so-and-so squadron to help clear it, or but that all boils down to essentially the communications aspect. And making sure we're on our game within the HC to get those squadrons